Welcome to the first video in this debate intro series. My name is Hannah, and in this video, I will briefly explain the basics of public forum, which is going to be the main style that we are debating in this club. So the structure is pretty simple. It's 2v2. One team is affirmative, which is pro, and then they support the motion, and one team is con, and they disagree with the motion. There are 4 speaker roles, so each speaker gets to give 2 speeches. And the motion is generally given about a month before the competition. And in order to not embarrass yourself and die horribly at the hands of a very good opponent, you need to write a case and blocks. And a case essentially basically your contentions, your arguments, your AREI, your assertion, reasoning, evidence, and impact. And generally you have 2 to 3 of those in each case. And your blocks, those are rebuttals. Essentially, they are arguments against what you believe your opponents might argue. And don't worry, we're going to explain all of this in later videos. So this is nothing, you don't have to worry about this now. And so here is the times for each speech. So as you can see, the first and second speech are both 4 minutes. And the first speech, which we call the constructive speech, is where you present your case. And after both of the teams have presented their case, then they have a crossfire, which is essentially where both of the speakers, they will ask each other questions about the case. And this is a great way to point out flaws and clarify things that you don't understand. And the second speakers, the rebuttal speakers, they will basically give their rebuttal speech against trying to argue against their opponent's case and try to prove things wrong. And they will also have a crossfire afterwards. And the third and fourth speaker, the summary and the final focus, are both 2 minutes long. These speeches may seem a bit similar, but essentially the summary is where you kind of give the final, like the clashes, which is basically where both of the teams have been really arguing for the certain points. And you want to show why you've won these major clashes in the debate. And after the summary speakers, we have the grand crossfire. Essentially, everybody in both the speakers on both teams can ask questions. The final focus is really where you have to tell the judge why we win. And you have to really weigh and really compare each of the worlds that each team presents. And additionally, each team has 2 minutes of prep time, where they can use it to prepare for speeches or for crossfire questions. So let's go through an example motion. This is one I've actually debated before, and it's pretty interesting. So resolved, university in the United States ought to use affirmative action in admissions decisions. So let's go through some definitions. Ought is an obligation. They should. And affirmative action is basically when universities, they use a race or other characteristics as one of the factors in admissions. So pro might say 2 things. One, that ongoing racial injustice means affirmative action is needed. Obviously, we need much more explanation, but essentially you can say, because certain minority groups have been historically disenfranchised, we need this affirmative action to give them more opportunities in more elite universities. And contention 2 could be that affirmative action addresses this racial injustice, is the best way to address this. And the argumentation would be similar, but it's very important to have an impact. Without the impact, the judge has no idea why I should care about this. It's like, yeah, this is true, but why does this matter? And so if you have a bunch of evidence and lots of research, but you don't tell the judge why you should care about this, well, then everybody's time is wasted. And plus, most judges are either parents or teachers because it's public forum. So they won't know a lot about the topic, and it's really important why you tell them this is so important. Con, on the other hand, might argue Asian discrimination. This is essentially where affirmative action discriminates towards certain minority groups. So, for example, Harvard actually rejected an Asian student with like perfect GPA, a great transcript, and lots of extracurricular activities because Harvard can't take in like all students because they have a quota. And so they sued in saying that, no, you're discriminating toward us Asians for other minority races. That's one argument Khan can run. And the second one is the mismatch problem. So essentially, students who are not qualified to go into elite schools, they end up going in because of affirmative action. But because they're not ready, they do poorly. And this increases the chance of them dropping out and actually could worsen the stereotype about this minority and even though there could be very successful people of this minority group, if they do poorly in this kind of elite environment, people are going to might get the idea that they aren't actually as excellent as they could be. And so that's pretty much it. It's pretty simple. We're gonna go in depth for like all the speeches in Crossfire, flowing, etc. in the next videos. So see you next time.